I wanted to talk about, or I wanted somebody to talk about, if you like, new ways of doing business, new ways of making money, new ways of living within the economic realm. And but nobody seemed to come forth. So I thought, well, I'll do something. What should I call it? Why work? And then I thought, oh, yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to say at that point. And then, but one of the things that I've kind of felt with this coming together is that actually people have been telling their story as well, you know, as well as their passion and their interest and their relationship with different things. They've been telling their story. So I thought, well, I'll tell you a bit of my story about work, and maybe what's influenced me about work, and well, in a way, why I'm doing this, or why I'm involved with doing this. Because I was born in Batley in West Yorkshire, which, as everybody knows, is the place where ducks fly backwards to keep muck out in their eyes. It's West Yorkshire, heavy woolen industry. My grandfather had a woolen mill, and I actually heard him say, "There's trouble at mill." I actually heard him say that. And I also remember him telling me that when he was young, there were 5 directors of this business, all brothers, in this woolen mill. And when all the men had gone home on a Friday evening, they all used to go into the mill and work non-stop until Monday morning with short breaks. This is what's called in sociological terms the Puritan work ethic. And that's the ethic that I grew up in. My father started a business which became very successful, but actually when I look back on it, he never seemed to do anything else but work. And when one grew up with this concept that work, running a business, being successful was normal. That's what you did. That's what you had to do. There wasn't any kind of ups or downs or anything. It was just kind of like, that's how things are. And I took it on. Unfortunately, for some reason, I had all sorts of other ideas in my head growing up. And I was interested in art, interested in poetry, interested in all sorts of other kind of activities. But nevertheless, I was destined to be, of course, not somebody in business purely, because the next level of aspiration that you had to be a professional. And in my case, I was destined to be a lawyer, a barrister. That was the idea. They thought, oh, James, he's got a lot of mouth on him. He should be a barrister and make a lot of money and be successful. Unfortunately for them, I went to university actually graduated in 1967 and then went to do a master's in West African law at the School of Oriental and African Studies in 1968. That was a good year because 10 million people were out on strike in France, organized by the students. And the Vietnam War was coming to an end, and the student movement in London was on fire, and everybody was occupying everywhere. The School of Oriental and African Studies was a bit conservative to start with, and our first radical activity was to mount a campaign about the price of tea and coffee in the. But one thing led to another, and I ended up in a socialist libertarian group. That's a posh word for anarchists group. And at the end of 1968, I think it's absolutely true to say I was a completely different person. I thought everything was going to change. I thought, it's fantastic. This is brilliant. There's something in my brain said, wow, yeah, everything can be different. And in a way, it has been different. So, work. I ended up getting married, and then moving back to Yorkshire. I trained in various kind of alternative health practices, including Reichian analysis and hypnosis, which I haven't entirely forgotten. And then after, when we got one child, I read a book called by Henry Thoreau. It's an American author you may have heard of, called Walden Pond. And Henry Thoreau went to live in the country for a year. He went to live in his own house, which he built, for a year. And this book had an amazing impact on me. And I said, well, that's what we're going to do. So I went to Suffolk and lived in this tiny little cottage. But of course I'd only trained to be clever. I had never been trained to do anything useful, I'd been trained to be smart ass, So it was a bit of a shock. What do I do about putting shelves up? What do you do about, what do you do about digging the gut? What do you do? How do you do it? So cutting this bit of a long story short, I took the first job that I could get, work, because we had no money. And it was working on a pig farm. And so I worked on a pig farm for about a year. And strange how things happen, but I just ended up meeting some people who also kind of gave me a steer about things. And then after about a year, some guy who lived in the village said, do you want to help me make pots? So I thought, oh, that sounds all right. So I went to help him, and I ended up as a potter for 10 years, making pots, throwing pots, and driving around in a 32-foot bus which was converted, which after 10 years used to carry me approximately 1 ton of pots in the back and a family with 4 children going to fairs and exhibitions, and there was kind of a culture in East Anglia where we then were. There was kind of a culture of trying to do things differently in the sort of early to mid 70s, and there was lots and lots of people. I mean, I bet there were 10 potters within about a sort of mile radius from where I lived. The place was absolutely heaving with rural craftsmen. You've no idea. Actually, Whitby's getting a bit like it now. But so work. Was I working? I wasn't quite sure at this point. We survived, and we decided to teach our children at home. So we taught our children at home. We started various organisations related to teaching children at home, and I started various organisations about bringing people together to kind of look after each other. All these rural craftspeople and all that, they were all trying to do this other alternative lifestyle thing, the kind of and so we used to come together once a month. And at one point there was about 100 different kind of businesses in it. Businesses, occupations, all people just kind of doing things differently and wanting to do things differently. And that was kind of successful. So we had a kind of very rich sort of social life, but also had to work really tremendously hard to kind of earn a living from actually making something, actually taking a raw material, making something out of it, firing it, going out and selling it. It was very hard work. But somehow the whole entity, the family, the children, teaching at home, making things, growing vegetables and all the rest of it kind of. And when I think back at it, I mean, in a way, that's kind of a boat I've been on. I've put it down to the 60s, but maybe it's about something that you just are. Maybe it's about just the way you are, because when I look back at it now, I think for some reason, I think my work, and here's perhaps where we get to the sort of issue of what work really is. Work perhaps really is your purpose. Maybe work is what you have to do. Work is also something that, of course, we have to do to earn money. But I think my experience sort of leads me to think perhaps there's a kind of optimum meeting of those two points. Work to earn money, but also doing something that you feel you should be doing, that has worth for you, which you feel equipped to do, that is relevant for you, and so on. So, and then 20 odd years ago, when the children were the eldest was 11, we decided to come up to North Yorkshire up here, so that the two eldest children could go to the Waldorf school that we've been hearing about today. And then what was I going to do for work? So we opened a health food shop, the health food shop really was about trying to provide a place where people could come, yes, to buy things which would give us some money, but also to meet each other, and also to find out about all those other things that, as it were, go with health food. And I guess that's what the dispensary is, in a way. It's kind of the stuff that goes with health food, except it's not just health food. It's not just food in the physical sense. It's food in the kind of social, economic, and cultural sense. And so the dispensary, I think, in a way, is a sort of kind of coming together of something that actually I feel very content with now. I should say we set up a business to make natural medicines in between all that, which is continues in Whitby. But the dispensary and the idea of this fourfoldness, this fourfold aspect of real health seems to me to be my work, and I'm hopeful that that those two streams might meet, i.e., we might make a bit of money out of it as well. Which kind of brings me to the. I mean, I did think I was going to talk about sort of alternative economics. Like we're a community interest company. We try and work. We're trying to work collaboratively. There's lots of problems with that approach, but we're having a go at it, and we want to support other people who are having a go at it. We want to be part of this kind of growing social enterprise movement. 20 years ago, I started something called the Common Box Club in Whitby, which was a group of people, and the strapline was, I'll try and remember it, mutual help amongst small, friendly businesses. Didn't use the word ethical or anything fancy, but it's just mutual help among small, friendly businesses. You decide whether you're friendly, but we'll come together, and we're just, if people want to get on with each other. So there's another sort of theme. It's about bringing things back together, in my book anyway. It's about recreating relationships. As David Adams was saying, we're all the biggest building projects are all about single flats. They're all about people living single lives, and in a way that's the way our kind of culture, society, economics has gone. It's all about one man against the world. It's the dog eat dog society. It's this, that, and the other. But in a sense, it doesn't seem to have much time for that sense of community which David spoke about during the war, which I think was a very real thing. It seems I hope we don't have to have a war, in a sense, to recreate it. I think we could try recreating it consciously, by looking at ways in which we can kind of combine with each other, and way in which we can join up the dots again and realize that that health, I mean, it's just another word, isn't it? But that sense of well-being, that sense of purpose in life, is composed out of all these four realms, not just physical health, but cultural health, economic health, spiritual health, social health, citizen health, and so on. I started the day feeling a little bit kind of disappointed that there weren't hordes of people coming here to buy all these lovely goods here, which we thought an awful lot about, and in order to help my economic realm. That's ticking away in that, say how we get. But I've ended up feeling extraordinarily sort of positive about the relationships that have emerged from this, and listening to everybody's story. So I'm really grateful that you came, and I hope we can somehow all stay kind of connected. Thank you.